Ticketmaster is telling Taylor Swift fans today it's seeing a historically unprecedented demand for tickets to Swift's new tour eras.
And the CEO of Live Nation did apologize to all Taylor Swift fans yesterday.
So many of them rushing Ticketmaster to score pre-sale seats to that hottest tour of 2023.
Well, this afternoon, there's anger among Taylor Swift fans and even calls for a congressional investigation after the planned sale of her tickets for her new tour went off the rails.
You know, I always wanted to do a news montage intro, and now I have an excuse. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past few days, you have probably heard about the chaos surrounding Taylor Swift's newly announced Eras Tour. Taylor is obviously one of the biggest artists in the world right now, and she hasn't toured in quite some time, so it was obvious to anyone with more than 2 brain cells that the demand for these tickets would be extremely high. And when you have millions of people trying to buy one thing at one time for various levels of self-interest that range from, I am a die-hard fan of this artist, to, I am a ticket broker trying to make money on the resale market, and your omnipotent god in both cases is Ticketmaster, things are bound to get a little confusing. So I am here to break it all down for you up to this point, which is an important qualifier considering that the last time I covered an event-based drama of this magnitude, I published it literally an hour before one of the biggest pop culture moments of the year unfolded. Here's to hoping I have better luck this time around. Believe it or not, I'm actually more well-versed in the Ticketmaster conversation than I am about the niche intricacies of the Taylor Swift fandom, so I'm going to start with this first. Part 1. Ticketmaster is the devil. Let's talk about the traditional model of the exchange of money for goods and services. If I want to buy a bunch of bananas, all I have to do is walk up to my grocery store up the block, pay a fixed price at checkout, and boom, now I have bananas. Now let's apply this analogy to Ticketmaster's model. Imagine if I wanted a bunch of bananas, but their price in real time is now dependent on 3 main factors: how close they are to the expiration date, how many bananas are in stock at the store, and how many other people also want those same bananas. On top of that, the grocery store charges you an additional fee on top of the banana price at that time. Sometimes it's equal to the cost of the bananas themselves. Oh, and if people get to those bananas before you do, they can sell them for a higher price on a secondary market. So no matter what, your experience getting those bananas is based on a ton of varying factors outside of your control. And if that sounds too complicated and you just want to go to a different grocery store, you can't. Because this one store controls the distribution of all of the fucking bananas. There's a historical joke in here somewhere, but let's keep it pushing. So basically, Ticketmaster is an unchecked monopoly. If you're buying a ticket to some type of live production event in the US, chances are you have to go through them to do it. And this is also encouraged by Ticketmaster's partner in crime, Live Nation. Live Nation manages a good majority of the live music venues in America. So even if individual venues or artists don't want to go through that ticket company, they have to because of the client management agreements. Live Nation and Ticketmaster should not have been allowed to merge in the first place for this very reason. But if you want a better breakdown of the history of antitrust laws in the US, I've linked some resources in the description down below. In many ways, Ticketmaster also controls the resale market for live events. Reselling is ideally supposed to benefit consumers by allowing fans to sell directly to each other. So for example, if a college student has Bad Bunny tickets and can't go because of the stomach flu, they could ideally sell those tickets through a third-party website like StubHub or SeatGeek. However, what ends up happening is that ticket brokers, whose whole job is to create higher profit margins for themselves and by proxy Ticketmaster, will use multiple accounts to buy hundreds of tickets and jack the prices up considerably in a process known as scalping. And Ticketmaster encourages this. Again, I'll link some resources down below, but there's proof that some artists are even in on it and will scalp tickets to their own shows to drive up prices. And whether or not the artist is in on it, it often ends with a bloodbath for consumers. Even before this whole Taylor Swift debacle, the same thing happened with Bruce Springsteen's upcoming tour. Hundreds of tickets were automatically made inaccessible by scalpers who got to them first and then upsold them for triple the price. And artists have also spoken out about this. In the 90s, Pearl Jam famously filed a complaint against Ticketmaster for anti-competitive marketing practices, but the US government failed to bring an antitrust case to the company. Pearl Jam eventually threw in the towel and agreed to work with Ticketmaster because, in their own words, it's pretty much impossible to tour without them. But there are ways that artists can get smart about this if they have enough influence. For example, Ed Sheeran cracked down on scalpers by instituting several rules on one of his most recent tours. Thousands of tickets that were scalped by resellers were canceled. Everyone who did have an actual ticket had to have an ID at the door, and a maximum of 4 tickets was allowed per person. Obviously, this isn't a perfect system, and there's some really blurred lines over how much control an artist or their management has in regards to their relationship with Ticketmaster. And we now know that Taylor was likely promised one thing from the company that ended up being very different from the reality. But before we get into that, we have to talk about Taylor Swift herself. So I'm probably what you would call a casual Swiftie. I was never a huge fan of her country stuff. I openly rebuked her existence during my not like other girls phase. I eventually came around with Red in 1989, got a little turned off during the Reputation era, and I ended up falling in love with Folklore and Evermore. And that's kind of where I am now. So my experience is not of the typical hardcore Swiftie or, more than casual Taylor Swift fan, which is why I've enlisted the help of some other fans to get a different perspective during this video. The thing about Taylor Swift is that she's had a long, varied, and dynamic career and is known for having somewhat of a personal relationship with her fans throughout each one of her eras, no pun intended. For Swifties, it just hits different.
Even kind of before the Folklore era, she's always been so good at telling those stories that it's the same reason you read a novel about characters who aren't like you or who have circumstances not similar to yours. You can still make those connections.
I have lyrics tattooed right here from 7. It's in my mom's handwriting. This isn't just like a folk song or Love Will Be Passed On. It was the first tattoo I'd ever gotten. Those albums changed everything for me.
Taylor has also been through a lot. She was put in a bad light as a result of her decades-long feud with Kanye West. She had a public falling out with her former record company after they sold her master to notorious industry butt-munch Scooter Braun. She's had some pretty public, messy relationships with men that she's written scathing songs about, and there's an online conspiracy floating around that she might secretly be gay.
I knew the community existed, but I didn't really know about the kind of conspiracy theory deep dives. Like, I knew about the Easter eggs, but not what are the secret Easter eggs that if you really pay attention,
There's a lot going on here, and through it all, the Swifties have developed an attachment to her, growing alongside her as she goes through these various trials and tribulations.
It's like you're reading someone's diary. It's like someone's confessing things to you. It's like your best friend is there trying to be there. It's like you're trying to be there for your best friend as they're going through something. At least that's the way that I look at it.
Taylor, like I said earlier, has also not toured in quite some time. Her last major tour being the Reputation tour in 2018, and a lot has happened since then. The marketing for this tour, Eras, is also clearly meant to invoke a celebration of the different eras of her career, not just the release of her newest album, Midnights, which has fans feeling an extra type of sentimental because so many of them quite literally grew up alongside her with her music. All of this to say that there was going to be an unprecedented demand for this shit, and Ticketmaster had to be ready to meet the moment. And meet the moment, they did not. Okay, so here's my rundown of events on the fateful day of the Taylor Swift Eras Tour presale. So, I had a presale code for Glendale, Arizona. I'm from New York, but I was meeting up with a friend on the West Coast. We were going to meet in the middle because we both wanted to see Taylor Swift and Paramore. Okay, got the Glendale presale code because you got a code that was specific to one of the 3 shows that you chose when you registered. I'm at work. It's noon my time. It's 10 a.m. Arizona's time because it went by the time of the venue. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just put this on my work monitor. I have 2 monitors, so I was, just keeping an eye on it. And surely I thought that this whole ordeal would have been over by the time my shift ended in 4 hours. I was wrong. Mainly, I knew I was wrong when I opened the link, and you're typically supposed to put in the presale code first and then get in the queue. For this one, you were in the queue fighting presumably thousands of other people, some who might have had a code, some who didn't, who were also in the queue, which doesn't seem like a great system, but okay, here we are. I'm like, surely I will get this ordeal wrapped up by 4 p.m. when my shift ends. My shift ends, I am still in the queue, I don't have tickets, and I'm like, okay, great, this is great. I have to leave because I have things to do with my life after my job ends, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to hook this up so I can get a hotspot on my phone, you know, do a Hail Mary, see what happens. That didn't work. So I realized I got booted off, I have to start over, I call my boyfriend who's at Dunkin' Donuts, I ruin his day because I'm like, you have to come back to the apartment and put the shit back up on my screen so I can try to get tickets and get back in the queue. He begrudgingly does so because he loves me and he's the best. He puts it back on my screen and I'm waiting another 4 hours in the queue. It's 8 p.m., I'm getting desperate, I'm getting hopeless, I magically all of a sudden get lit in. So I run to my computer, I put the pre-sale code in, which, like, at this point, why does it even matter? I get 2 dog shit seats. They're the worst seats in all of State Farm Stadium. I've never been there, so I can't attest to that. However, it is behind the stage. It's, like, all the way up in the nosebleeds. It's terrible. I would have paid more, but everything else that was either gone or it was, you know, $20,000. So I was like, well, shit. So I ended up getting 2 really terrible seats after an 8-hour ordeal, and I learned nothing and gained nothing from this experience, but I'm not going to complain that much because there are other people who are way bigger Taylor Swift fans than me who didn't get anything. They didn't even get a pre-sale code. So that was my personal experience that day, and I'll let you hear from other people as well.
The scariest part was you would click, because I was getting 3 tickets, and you would click on the tickets, and they would just, like, disappear as you're clicking them. And then you'd get some, and they would get into your, like whatever, and they'd be like, actually, no, someone else bought them. And you're like, okay, what? So I feel like at least 20 different attempts to get tickets failed. So I just went to the nosebleeds, and I spent $160 on horrible nosebleed, side of the stage tickets.
After 3 or 4 kind of disappeared under me, I just, like, was really quick, and so I did get one, and I got a pretty good seat. I only got one. I got a single ticket, and it's, like, kind of the lower bowl. It ended up costing $499 plus the Ticketmaster fee, which was about $113. So it was a total of $612.
It's going to be 7 a.m. my time here. So the pre-sale is going to start, and we're going to be good to go. I got my boost from Taylor Nation. Perfect. And I got waitlisted. And my heart shattered. I cried for about 20 minutes. And then my best friend back home, I was also going to go to the concert with, was like, all right, we got this. I got my pre-sale code. We're going to do this. So I wake up the morning that the pre-sale happens, and I'm texting her constantly, like, let me know how many people are in front of you. And she's sending me videos on Snapchat, and she's bawling her eyes out. She's like, it keeps sending me to the back of the line. Ironically, the people in high school that bullied me for liking Taylor are texting me, asking for tips on how to get tickets. And I'm just like, I can't help you. I was like, no one knows what's going on. So I took the L. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to get tickets for the pre-sale. I'll try again tomorrow with Capital One. Had no success with that either. So right now I'm just hoping that something is solved and I get to go.
So what happened here? Ticketmaster said they were giving out pre-sale codes presumably based on the demand for each venue. The day before the sale, I got my code. The way this should have worked was that I should have been able to put my code in before entering the queue. One of the main reasons why the queue was so slow to begin with was because anyone could just join it. You didn't need a code to get in line. If you want my humble opinion, it's because Ticketmaster was probably letting a certain number of people through who had ulterior motives and no code. Additionally, not everyone got a presale code. Many were actually waitlisted, but that's okay because there was a general public sale that was promised a few days later. But while folks were joining in and snatching up what was left of the presale, it was pretty clear that the math wasn't mathing. It didn't seem like anything was reserved for the general public the way that the sections of these massive stadiums were being snatched up, and that was confirmed when Ticketmaster posted this tweet.
Due to extraordinarily high demands on ticketing systems and insufficient remaining ticket inventory to meet that demand, tomorrow's public on sale for Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour has been cancelled.
At this point, everyone is out for blood. Everyone wants answers, the federal government is getting involved, and the CEO of Liberty Media, which has a major stake in Ticketmaster, decided to go on CNBC and say this.
The site was supposed to be opened up for 1.5 million verified Taylor Swift fans. We had 14 million people hit the site, including bots, another story, which are not supposed to be there. And despite all the challenges and the breakdowns, we did sell over 2 million tickets that day. We could have filled 900 stadiums.
Okay, so assuming you're taking this as truth, if you're anticipating 1.5 million fans to get into the presale, you must have given out exactly that many codes. You then say that 14 million people, quote, hit the site, including bots, which is what you claimed you were trying to prevent with this system. We don't even know what hit the site means, but you would think that some of this traffic would have been eliminated if you only let the people with codes queue up in the first place. And then he says that despite all the challenges, the technical issues that Ticketmaster had during the sale, of which there were many, they sold 2 million tickets that day. So where did the extra codes come from, Greg? If you were giving out 1.5 million presale codes, that means you're either lying about that number, or not everyone who got access to the sale had access to a code. And I'm thinking it's the second one because overselling is the only logical reason that you would not have had enough inventory for a general public sale or the Capital One card presale that got delayed.
I feel like they could have done this entire thing differently by having one pre-sale going at a time, because I thought they had like two going at once, like a Capital One and then like the regular one. Do one at a time, make it so that you don't give out so many pre-sale codes, and I don't know, maybe don't jack up the price of your tickets as the day goes on.
It seems weird to me that they waited until they were in the trenches. It's not a secret that Taylor Swift is the biggest, or like duking it out with Beyonce to be the second biggest musical act in the world right now.
We didn't expect this demand, but it's like you sent out the codes and then you made it to where you didn't have to put the codes in until the end. You did this to yourself. I think that Ticketmaster did it on purpose because they're greedy, because they know that they can make more money off of Taylor than they can make off of anybody. And they know how dedicated Swifties are.
Alright, let's talk about the fallout here. People were turning on Taylor, lashing out at other people who did get tickets. A bunch of lawmakers tweeted about how Ticketmaster is a monopoly and needs to be broken up. Several state attorneys general have launched investigations into this, and the Justice Department has opened their own antitrust investigation into the company. But I think the most interesting response came from Taylor Swift herself, which reads, quote,
"Well, it goes without saying that I'm extremely protective of my fans. We've been doing this for decades together, and over the years, I've brought so many elements of my career in-house. I've done this specifically to improve the quality of my fans' experience by doing it myself with my team who care as much about my fans as I do," she wrote. "It's really difficult for me to trust an outside entity with these relationships and loyalties, and excruciating for me to just watch mistakes happen with no recourse. There are a multitude of reasons why people had such a hard time trying to get tickets, and I'm trying to figure out how this situation can be improved moving forward. I'm not going to make excuses for anyone because we asked them, multiple times, if they could handle this kind of demand, and we were assured they could. It's truly amazing that 2.4 million people got tickets, but it really pisses me off that a lot of them feel like they went through several bear attacks to get them." And to those who didn't get tickets, all I can say is that my hope is to provide more opportunities for us to all get together and sing these songs. Thank you for wanting to be there. You have no idea how much that means.
I think that her statement today was the best she could say without breaking a non-disclosure agreement, is what it seems like to me. And like I said, Taylor Swift using the word pissed in an official statement about tour, that doesn't happen, so she's really mad.
And sure, you have every right to be a skeptic here and not believe what she says, but it sounds to me like she and her team were reassured by somebody that this would go smoothly, and that Ticketmaster were the ones that screwed this up by going for the method that would ultimately make them the most collective profit.
Krusty Krab is unfair! Mr. Krabs is in there! Standing at the concession! Plotting his oppression!
Okay, good morning. It is the next morning after I recorded most of this video, and it appears that Ticketmaster has released a new statement, so I'm going to go through parts of it right now to see if it gives any additional context to what we've learned so far. Alright, so they're apologizing for those who had a bad experience. They claim they knew a record number of fans wanted tickets to Taylor's tour. They figured this out by, you would think common sense, but also requiring registrations. They determined that over 3.5 million people pre-registered for Taylor Swift Tickets presale, powered by a verified fan, which is the largest registration in history. This is where you fucked up, because they go on to say, historically around 40% of invited fans actually show up and buy tickets, and most purchase, on average, 3 tickets. So, sure, historically that might be your trend, but I would also think that by that historic sign up for the pre-sale, that you would be able to extrapolate a little bit and understand that maybe this is not part of a historical trend and therefore you should adapt differently. Around 1.5 million people were sent codes to join the on sale. That checks out with what our boy Greg said earlier on CNBC. The remaining 2 million verified fans are placed on a waiting list on the small chance that tickets might still be available after those who received codes had shopped. I don't know if they ever said that it was a small chance, also. They kind of made it sound like if you didn't get into the pre-sale, you would at least, either maybe get taken off the wait list or it would be fine for the general sale, but okay. The demand for tickets to Taylor's tour broke records and parts of our website. Historically, we've been able to manage huge volume coming into the site to shop for tickets. However, the staggering number of bot attacks should have prepared for that, as well as fans who didn't have codes drove unprecedented traffic to the site. That's your fault for requiring the code at the end and not the beginning. We've gone over this, resulting in 3.5 billion total system requests, 4 times our previous peak. Again, your fault. Don't feel bad. Okay. This is where we get into bullshit territory. This is where they're kind of trying to save themselves. All 2 million tickets for the verified fan on sale were sold to verified fans. Only ticket buyers who were verified were permitted to enter a queue. I don't believe this, because first of all, the bots got through. Second of all, you never implied that people were taken off the wait list because of the high demand. So if all 2 million people who got tickets were verified fans, where's the discrepancy is still there with the 1.5 you gave pre-sale codes to. So do people come off the wait list? Was it bots? Like, the math still isn't mathing. While it's impossible for everyone to get tickets to these shows, we know we can do more to improve the experience, and that's what we're focused on. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. So that's where we find ourselves at the moment. If you want my advice, I think everyone should frequently check StubHub and other resellers because the demand for tickets will probably go down the closer we get to individual shows. I don't think they're gonna refund everyone and start over. That seems like it would even be a bigger shit show potentially. Eat the rich, and if you're defending the corporation in this case, please let me know how those boots taste on the way out. Thanks. You get to build your own perfect Taylor Swift lip sync for your life. What song is it, and which queens are doing it?
I want to see, I don't even need to think, because I've had this in my head for a while. I want to see on whatever Versus the World is coming next, I want to see Ready for It with Taste and with I had a second person. Who was it? I had this like perfect thing in my head. It was Taste and it was someone from season 14. Who was it? I'm blanking. Let's just say like Lady Camden.
Taste and Lady Camden to Ready for It. I love that.
Ready for It is like, if you're gonna do any Taylor Swift song, it's gonna be either Ready for It or like Look What You Made Me Do. So that's what I would want to see.